Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Bond Backwards. And Adam's giving me some really weird looks on the Zoom thing.
Why do you say why can't you just say hello like a normal
I
person?
don't know. I don't know. I think I've got it. I have absolutely no idea. Adam, just hello, hello, hello. Just the tip of the tongue. It just comes out.
Hi.
So anyway,
Bonjour, Mr. Bond.
bonjour, Monsieur Bond. Yeah, so last episode we talked about The Spy Who Loved Me, and we regarded as that film as being the high point, one of the high points of the James Bond franchise, and also the high point of at that particular point in Roger Moore's tenure as Bond as being a very sort of that was like top.
No, it is.
quality.
It is the best Roger Moore movie.
Yeah, I saw this very recently, well, fairly recently, and it is not my favorite Bond movie. This I call The Man with the Golden Gun the film with the missed opportunity. And because
Ooh. Oh, Pauline Kael. Fucking wit.
yeah, I don't know. 'Cause
I call the man with the golden gun the man with the missed opportunity. Are you gonna make that joke? I sure am, boy.
So so this was Roger Moore's second movie as James Bond. So he had just done Live and Let Die, which was kind of like a blaxploitation tribute slash kind of fairly racist movie.
We have got some things to discuss when we come to that.
Yeah, and The Man with the Golden Gun is also kind of a tribute to martial arts movies, which were very popular at the time in the 70s, while also being slightly tad racist, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. You sounded like Woody Allen there for a second. Yeah, I think that movie might be a little.
Okay,
racist.
shut up. Do not equate me with Woody Allen. Thank you.
Okay.
The yeah. So we've said this before, and we'll say it again. Every time the Bond films try and get on board with a trend,
Yeah.
it's lame. Even in Casino Royale, it feels lame with Texas Hold'em. Even in in the best Bond movies, there's like this desire to be seen as with it in a franchise that celebrates like a borderline middle-aged white male misogynist like dinosaur, to quote Judi Dench in
Yeah.
Goldeneye. It's like no, like in the third movie, he makes jokes about the Beatles being unlistenable to. It's like fuck you, you don't know anything about anything cool. Like so, every time they try and do something that's a little bit like cool and with it, it falls flat on its face. And even more flat on its face is when it's Roger Moore, who's like pushing 50, trying to show that he's got like karate chops. And the other thing they do in this film, which they did a little bit in Live and Let Die, and I thought they'd had enough of, is they decide it's not just good enough that they're going to do this weird martial arts ripoff. They're also just going to introduce like the Dukes of Hazzard. They're also going to try and weave in to a film that's set in Southeast Asia. They're going to try and weave in like Smokey and the Bandit and all the sort of Southern road movie. Yeah, and so they go to this huge length and they jump the shark to such a huge extent.
Yeah.
That they get, what's his name? The sheriff.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Now, Anders, a sheriff from the deep south has never gone on holiday in the Southeast Asia in his life. I can tell you that. There is no way that a cracker, racist sheriff from fucking Louisiana or whatever.
It's Louisiana. It's Clifton James that plays Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
And he plays him to the hilt.
Yeah.
There's no way he would show up in Thailand. But anyway, there he is. And you get one of the great, I mean, let's be honest, it's one of the greatest car stunts in the history of cinema.
Yeah, it's one of the best car stunts ever. They do it realistically, and I think they did it in like one take, where it does the loop-de-loop. But then they fucking
did it. I mean, they literally
ruined it with the corkscrew sound effect, which they put in underneath the whoop, and then it's so stupid. Why did they do that?
Well, because they can't resist. It's the whole infection that takes hold of the mind in the Roger Moore era, which is like, I know what this needs. like wacky sound effects, like the ah, and the all the bang, it just
Yeah.
it has like just constant there's always this like series of noises going on. I just spat all over my microphone. But they can't leave it alone. They can't just like do something mildly funny. They have to be like, you see what we did? And
they double down on the humor, but they double down in the worst possible way. And I think they do it very badly in this film. I think this and Octopussy are the sort of bad contenders of the Roger Moore films, where they just didn't. They probably started out with like the best of intentions, and I think they did sort of start out with the best of intentions with this one, because it was. I think it was the last the last book that Ian Fleming had published before he died, or it was published after he had passed away. I think. And I think they were, and I know that watching it, and I was thinking, just because Christopher Lee plays Francisco Scaramanga, this assassin who only needs like one bullet, and then he's
Andy, he has a powerful weapon.
Yes,
he charges 1 million a shot.
Yeah, that song,
second to none.
The man with the golden gun. I didn't know that.
Speaking of, can we just talk about the theme for a second?
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous, but it's quite endearing in its own way. And my friend Andrew met Lulu at an event once and hung out with her for a bit. Yeah. And he says she's great, and she's exactly as you would imagine Lulu being in real life. Just so I feel like she deserves a shout out, because even though she's handed a bit of a turkey of a theme, she gives it the guns and actually kind of makes it a better song.
It fits well. I think maybe, I don't know, I think just it's a good song on its own. I think with the film itself, it doesn't, I don't know, when they try to do different variations of it, like adding like an Asian twist to it, then it sort of goes a little bit. The like Asian music that they do in this. It's not.
Yeah,
I think the movie starts off really strong. We're introduced to our main villain. We're introduced to his location, which you can actually go to, and not like the rocks and everything in Asia. You can see the places where.
Hang on a minute, narrow it down. It's in Thailand, right? Or
it isn't. I think it is in Thailand. Yes.
Or Vietnam, one of those places.
I think it is in Thailand. I might be wrong, or somewhere in Southeast Asia. I'm not quite sure. But you can actually.
That's the classic '90s location thing on the somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah. But so it starts off really strong. You're introduced to our villain. You're also introduced to Maud Adams, who plays. What's her character name again? She is Andrea Anders. So. Which is quite funny.
Hello.
And also,
it's by the way, it's in Phuket, near Phuket in Thailand.
Okay, cool. And we're also introduced to his little sidekick.
Literally
little sidekick, Hervé Villachez, who this was his like big break before he was on Gilligan's Island, and he was living out of his car when he made this film. So this was like a big sort of.
Oh really?
Yeah. So this was like a really big break for him. So we're introduced to him, and we're introduced to an assassin who is actually also in Diamonds Are Forever. He's the guy who I didn't know there was a pool down there.
Yeah. So it opens well with this funhouse. The funhouse thing. It's a bit. It is still that slight metaphor for the whole Roger Moore.
It's a bit silly in some ways, but like
it's incredibly silly. But it's like I get what they're trying to do, and it is kind of creepy with the funhouse. But then you get the weird Roger Moore wax statue, and this whole idea that. And what I find annoying is that, as you say, with Missed Opportunity, you've got this great idea, which is a super famous assassin who lives in this amazing lair somewhere in the deep. The Red China Sea or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's mysterious, and he travels with impunity and kills at will, and he's a super assassin. He's the Jackal. It's like the Day of the Jackal.
Yeah.
And they take this idea and they don't run with it. They don't make it interesting. They don't say, okay, we have to stop like him assassinating, I don't know, the prime minister or the president or whatever it is. Instead, it's like he's got this obsession with killing James Bond. And I don't even remember what the whole plot revolves around ultimately. Like something to do with
agitator.
Oh, there's a MacGuffin. Of course,
like the whole thing with the sunbeam thing. You don't need it. it's not.
Also, again with the fucking sunbeam thing.
It's like, no, it's like
diamonds are forever. This, die another day. Why can't? It's like the Death Star to these people. They can't leave it alone.
Yeah, and also it's like it's just that whole like all the stuff with him and the gangster. What's his name? High Fat, played by Richard Liu. Like, there's no need. Like, it sort of feels a bit like it's distracting a little bit from.
High Fat, a cousin of Woe Fat from Hawaii Five-O. Do you think?
Yeah, probably, maybe. I don't know. Good reference.
Thank you. The like, you know, the whole the whole film is just cracked. I mean, the whole like, it's also why they're so obsessed with sex. And I mean, I'm not just talking about, yes, the Bond films are obsessed with sex, but they're like a carry-on movie in this film. He makes a joke at every opportunity. He meets Ping Pong or whatever her name is, the woman in the swimming pool. What's she called? She has some ridiculous name.
Oh, I can't remember. I think it might be a little bit problematic, the name or something like that.
Yeah, sorry, I was also Lieutenant Hip. That's the name of a character in this film.
Yeah, that's his Asian sidekick.
Yeah, with the two, he has the two daughters who help him out.
I think they're nieces or something.
Yeah, I mean, but there's that scene where he meets the woman in the pool, and she's like, "I'm not wearing any swimming suits either." And then he talks about his prosthetic third nipple, which is the most obvious prosthetic thing you've ever seen in your life, being titillating. You know, it's like, oh mate, it is just endlessly. Her name is Chew Me.
Yeah. Also, there's also a scene in a restaurant.
I mean, that's the Austin Powers, you know, the Fook Me and Fook You. That's where they get that.
Fast. Yeah, there's a lot. This is problematic.
It's hugely. I mean.
Yeah, I mean the good stuff. Christopher Lee is really good as Scaramanga. I think he makes very good of that role, and he was friends with Ian Fleming. I think they both were like. SAS, like sports.
No, not SAS, but SIS.
SIS. Well, they were both like special forces guys. Like they did some stuff, I think.
It's not special forces; it's intelligence work. I mean, neither of these guys was like charging. Oh, I can't remember what Ian Fleming did. I mean, what Scaramanga did. But Ian Fleming was essentially traveling the world, drinking cocktails, and filing documents during the war. I mean, he was planning operations, but he didn't actually do any. He didn't put him. He wasn't in the front line.
Yeah,
but he did know, he knew a lot of people. He knew Kim Philby, for example, and he knew Christopher Lee. And it's funny that in many ways, this is again a wasted opportunity, because Christopher Lee would have been brilliant as James Bond, I think.
Yeah,
maybe when he was younger, but he also would have been great as any number of good like Bond villains later on.
Yeah,
and it's weird in some ways, given how long lasting he was. It's weird that he never came back. Like, they always like to recast people.
Yeah.
In the franchise, and I always thought it would be nice to have Christopher Lee come in, maybe as like, in the Pierce Brosnan era as like a cameo or something. But he never came back. This is his only foray into this franchise, and it's sad that it's in such a bad film, and it's sad that his Golden Gun, which is made even more famous by the GoldenEye video game, is so. Like, it's a pen and a cigarette lighter and something else. You could not, if you fired that thing, it would blow up in your hand. There is no way an international assassin
like
is
the most
using
deadliest thing
to
in the
kill
world.
People
pen
from a distance.
Barrel.
Right. And yeah, that's pretty daft. But that, as I say, he does get some moments. And we also get Maud Adams in this.
We get her
who
twice.
shows up again in Octopussy, and I think she's way better, way more interesting in this film.
I think one of the things I feel like they should have done differently in this film.
One of the many things.
I think they should have switched who died out of the Bond girls. I think it would have been, because I really do not like Britt Eklund. I mean, not Britt Eklund, but I just don't like her character. I just think her Mary Goodnight character is so damn annoying.
Yeah, she's like an endless. She's a punchline, and I mean, she just gets into all this like stupid trouble and is like a hindrance. Is that and yeah? Whereas Andrea Anders or Anders Andrea, your namesake is way more interesting. Yeah, you're right. And
because there's like she's trying to get away from Scaramanga. She's she is his like she is his lover, but
let's be honest, she's Melania Trump.
Yeah, she. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so there's an interesting idea, like she's trying to get away from Scaramanga, but also trying to warn Bond. So there's like different things of what's going on a little bit. She's a bit like the girl from License to Kill that isn't the
Talisa Soto.
Talisa Soto's character. So it's a little bit, they play it a little bit like that. So I think it would have been interesting because I feel like at the moment when she's like sitting dead in the wrestling arena or wherever they are, the sort of Muay Thai boxing arena,
it's like a wrestling. Yeah,
I think that was quite a shocking moment because you don't see it coming or anything like that. But I just feel like it would have been interesting. It would have been a much more interesting film because it just feels like there's no chemistry between him. Like the thing with like a lot of the Bond girls in the Roger Moore era, there wasn't that much chemistry between him and some of them. Like particularly in like stuff like View to a Kill, and like there was a bit of high chemistry between him and Maud Adams. I think it would have been interesting that if she had like survived the film, because also it would have made that sequence after Scaramanga dies, spoiler alert, even shorter, because that sequence after Scaramanga dies is so boring. Like the whole thing where he's trying to get the sun thing, the Solex agitator out.
I know, what the fuck.
It just drags out the movie.
Who gives a damn about this thing?
It just drags out the movie so much, and then they're on the boat, and then Knick-Knack tries to kill Bond, and then Bond like puts him on top of the ship and then drops him off at Gilligan's Island. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole the idea that they thought we've got this this international assassin who wants to kill James Bond, he has a mistress who wants to get away from him. What this film needs is more plot. It's like and boring one that we've done before. Like, no. I mean, I wonder whether they brought that in just so that they had an excuse to get like M and Moneypenny and Q involved and stuff. But it just is just not a good story. And the film is just, it feels, as you say, boring in parts, like really genuinely boring. And that's the worst thing that a Bond film can be.
It just feels very dragged out. It feels longer than, I mean, the movie is 2 hours long, but it feels longer than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things they could have done better with the film, and just making that villain more interesting and a little bit more part of the film, and less like some Wile E. Coyote kind of guy being like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot this guy and run away," kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and there's so many other villains, and it's like we don't care about any of them. We just want this, like the idea of a game of cat and mouse. Just like strip everything else away, and just have this be a game of cat and mouse between Bond and this other guy. Like in many ways, what they did in License to Kill.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no mission in License to Kill. There's no plot beyond let's make some cocaine. It's just he wants revenge, and in this film, it should be there's an international assassin, go kill him, or he'll kill you.
Yeah,
and then you've just got this game of chess. They could have traveled the world, but instead they're like, let's go on holiday to Southeast Asia. We'll come up with some blah 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 bullshit about a sun agitator doodah, and we'll tie in martial arts, and we'll bring back J.W. Pepper because everyone fucking loves J.W. Pepper for some reason, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah, it's just...
And you're right. Yeah, you're right. And they, I don't think they should have killed off Britt Eklund, but they should have just like realized that there's one of those people who has genuine chemistry with Roger Moore and who's a genuinely interesting character, and that's Maud Adams, and I think that's why she comes back in
Octopussy. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, just word of mentioned. The some of our fans online, the
fans.
Yes, people, the great guys from the Paul and Griff Show podcast, they mentioned that they said that this is one of the films where Bond only kills one person, and that's Scaramanga.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how he manages to one up Scaramanga by swapping.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. That he dresses up as the wax model.
Yeah, like where does he put the wax model, and how does he have that much time to take the tux?
And he's just standing there like, when he's like,
okay,
if a fly came,
it's like, okay, he's gonna come in a minute, any minute now, any minute, and also like, and also like Knick-Knack could be like, Scaramanga, he's turned into the statue, kill him.
Yeah, it's like, he's taking his clothes off. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, Hervé Villechaize, he had a very tragic story. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really sad what happened to him. I think he was part of Gilligan's Island. He was the guy that he would always have that catchphrase, the plane, boss, the plane, and that was his like thing for a while. But he got fired from the show because of personal problems, but also I think maybe because of of who he was. And a lot of actors who are of small stature, they do fall into this kind of lets them have them.
Yeah, they get stereotyped.
They get stereotyped, awful. And Peter Dinklage made a film about him. He wanted to he made a film about his last interview that he made with a guy, like the director of that film. He interviewed Hervé Villechaize, and while he interviewed him for a very long, had talked to him over a period of time, and then the interview was in many ways a suicide note because he committed suicide after the interviews were done.
I mean, it's worth pointing out that Hervé Villechaize, for a lot of people, even after his death, was and certainly while he was alive, was a punchline. Still, it's like, oh, he was this crazy guy who whored around and drank a lot and took drugs and whatever, and that's like, ha ha ha. It's funny because it's still like drawn. It's still pushed through that lens of like, he's small, so he's amusing, and
they do that a little bit in this film. They
do that a lot in the film. The whole film is about how incredibly funny it is that that Scaramanga has a little person as his
a dwarf,
sidekick.
And he's like the way that like Bond captures him when he's throwing bottles at him, he like puts him in a suitcase.
Yeah, and this idea that like, haha, Christopher Lee's really tall and Hervé Villechaize is really short. I mean, it's offensive, and like so much of this era that we are moving into. Obviously, we're going to talk about Live and Let Die, and there's going to be a ton of problems with the Connery films as well in that regard. But we are dealing with a franchise that is, let's be honest, majority sexist, pretty much majority racist in its depiction of minorities, and has some pretty questionable views about disabilities and homosexuality, for example. Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd coming up in Diamonds Are Forever is a good
exactly.
So can we what do we
who would you recast in the film?
I would want to remake this entire movie from scratch.
You know what?
I'd want, just stay with me.
Okay, all right.
And I just want to see Christopher Lee as Scaramanga. That's great. That's fine. But I want it to be a different movie. I want it to be a Christopher Lee going up against a Bond that carries an equal amount of menace and of threat, and who better than Edward Fox, who played the Jackal.
Yeah.
So you could have these two assassins going up against each other, and they travel the world, and they get into scrapes, and it would be a classic piece of like 70s globetrotting of cinema. So we'd have two suave British assassins up against each other in in like places like Marseille and Tokyo and Mexico City and cool locations and smoke-filled bars and none of this bullshit.
Yeah, I think that would be.
So my whole recasting thing is predicated on the idea of remaking the entire film. What about you?
I think just in regards to what you were saying, because I feel like it's because we've had a new version of Blofeld in Spectre. And I'm sort of holding on a theory that Rami Malek's character in No Time to Die for No Country of Old Men is Dr. No.
No. Yeah.
I made a joke because No Time to Die for No Country for Old Men.
You shouldn't do jokes. I'll do the jokes.
Okay, fine. So I'm sort of holding on to the...
No, don't just give up like that. You're so meek.
Yeah, story of my life. But anyway, I'm sort of on the theory that Rami Malek is playing Dr. No.
I'm fascinated by this theory. I don't know where you got this idea from, but I can't quite shake the idea now that you've said it. But he does have a different name. He has got his character does have a name, and it's not.
Yeah,
Dr.
it's a different name, but also Franz Oberhauser. That was the name that they put in the credits before Spectre, and then turned out he was Blofeld.
Yeah. So you think they're going to bring back Scaramanga?
So I think they could easily bring back Scaramanga, but do it in like a really cool way based off what you said. I think they could easily do that.
Okay, well, who are you recasting?
I think I would recast Britt Eklund because I just don't think she.
You really got to.
I just don't think
you're
she.
hating
I
on
just
Britt
don't think she
Ekland.
really fits well in the movie. I know I like her in like The Wicker Man. I think she's pretty good in that. But I just don't. Just I don't know. There's just the stupid blonde British agent. It just does it for me. I just think they could have just. I think if they just get another actor with a little bit more gravitas, I think they could have made that role a little bit less like pastiche.
You saying you want to recast her with Edward Woodward from Wicker Man?
No.
Scaramanga's going, oh Jesus Christ!
Oh God! The Solex is a man! Oh my God! That would have been interesting. Wicker Man. Well, there is actually. Well, Christopher Lee, he's in the Wicker Man, so it's a little bit of a Wicker Man reunion in that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, who would I recast? Barbara Steele.
I don't know.
She is in 8.5. She's also in a film called Black Sunday, which is one of Mario Bava's best films. Also called in America, it's called The Mask of Satan. I think she could have. I think she's also English as well, and she's done a few Italian movies as well. I think she could have done that much better than Britt Eklund.
Okay, good shout. You took a while to get there, but you got a good one. Okay, so you've done the recasting. Where do you want to go on holiday?
Thailand. Scaramanga's sort of hideout.
Where are the other locations?
There's Beirut.
Beirut, is there?
Oh no, it's not. It's not Beirut. It's what's it? It's I forgot what it's. Oh no, it is Beirut. He goes to Beirut at the beginning of the movie to get the belly dancer who has the gold in her the bullet that was killed by that British agent is in her belly button. And then he like swallows it.
Oh, that bit where he has to try and get it out. Oh,
and then he swallows it, and then he gets into a taxi, and he says, "The nearest pharmacy."
Oh God, yeah, because he's gonna go buy some laxatives or whatever. Oh Jesus, yeah, we have. There's not. Okay, well, actually, yeah, sure. I mean, and we should say Beirut is somewhere that has just undergone a terrible tragedy,
Jesus.
as people know who've watched the news, and so in solidarity with that city, which is going through a sad time, I'm gonna turn up, and Lebanon's supposed to be great, and I would, I'd love to go there one day. So sure, you go to Thailand, I'll go to Beirut, and I'll come back with the bullet in the
chap who made the bullet 007. Yeah. So martinis. How many martinis are you giving this?
Oh, 2.
2? Yeah. I'd give it 2 as well. If I was being really generous, I'd give it 2.5. But it's a bland.
It's not good enough.
Yeah, it's 2 bland martinis. I'm afraid.
What is the stupidest bit in this film? You've got a lot to pick from.
There's a lot to pick from this movie. I think the stupidest bit in the movie, apart from the corkscrew bit, it's when Britt Eklund is like kneeling over, and she's looking down at Bond trying to get the Solix agitator out of the little hole where the laser goes down, and she turns on the machine with her bum.
That is so stupid. That is so dumb. And that it also goes back to this bit in Diamonds Are Forever where he hides the cassette in Jill St. John's bum, and there's all this like bum
nice, such nice cheeks.
So everyone can see it.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so we can cover that in Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah, that is a very stupid bit. Well, I'm gonna do something slightly different, and say the best bit and the worst bit, the stupidest and the best bit of this film is the corkscrew drum.
Yeah,
because it is an insanely amazing stunt.
It is an amazing
it looks
stunt.
Great.
Yeah.
It is a perfect piece of 70s silly because it's an American car and everything like that. It's so brilliantly executed. It is completely for real, completely in the Bond spirit of like, okay, we can go bigger and better, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And they ruin it by putting J.W. Pepper in the car, by saying "I sure can, boy," and doing the corkscrew sound effect.
Yeah.
So it is simultaneously the best and worst of this era of Bond movies.
I think it's the scene. I don't know. There's some scene like a lot of these like Bond movies, especially when like the villains have the guys in their lair and they're all showing around and being like, "This is where I have this. This is where this. Look at my laser. I'm going to use it to destroy your plane, and then you can't leave. You can never leave. And then I'm going to kill you later. But then you end up killing me. So fuck it." It's like moments like that where you just feel like, just shoot him. You could have shot him, but then again, he said like, I could have shot you when you landed, but that would have been useless or something like that. But so I think my favorite scene is not that stuff, but like it's the scenes with Christopher Lee with him and Roger Moore where they're just kind of talking to each other and just kind of. I think those scenes are really strong, and I think the strongest scene for me particularly is the scene where they're in the boxing arena. It's where he's talking about his life story when he was in the circus. And, you know, this idea where he killed his first man and that he really enjoyed it. I just think the way that Christopher Lee like says it in a very nonchalant way, he really sells this guy who really got a taste for blood and then just kind of went with it and got a lot of money out of it. I think that's a really good moment.
I will say he is quite famous for playing another character who had a taste for blood.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Dracula.
I know.
That's a good point, and you're right. Those bits, the cat and mouse stuff, the dialogue between these two killers. Those are the best bits of the film, and they should have built the whole film around it.
Yeah.
And they should have just stripped everything else out. And it is, as you say, it's a missed opportunity. This film needed to be something completely different, but the idea is good. Yeah. It's just the execution is across the board terrible. So,
I think if they, if they did it in like the way that they did with Silver and Skyfall, like that if they had that kind of duality between Bond and Scaramanga, like. Because essentially they're the same, they're one and the same, just a little bit different. One's a hero, the other one's the villain, and all that sort of stuff. They could have really, developed on that. Like this is who Bond could have turned into if he was an assassin, or if he wanted to, be a gun for hire, basically.
Right, and maybe even you could have done a film where he tries to recruit Scaramanga, because I mean that's the great thing about Silver is that he was a spy. I think we've covered this.
Yeah,
let's brace ourselves for
you got a honky
Bond exploitation.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I think we should. Yeah,
we got a couple of really tough films to get through. Yeah. Both of which are set largely in America, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is true.
And
one of them's Vegas.
Both of them are terrible. Well, okay, maybe Live and Let Die has some point. Let's get into Live and Let Die next time. Because I do think that film needs careful discussion.
Yes, I think so too. But anyways, well, that concludes another episode of Bond Backwards. We've been talking about The Man with the Golden Gun. You can check out all our other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Podomatic. We will be discussing Live and Let Die at a future date. So thank you very much for listening again. I've been Anders Holmes. I've been joined by Adam.
Goodbye.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
I see you only live twice.
Yeah.
Au revoir, Monsieur Bond. Have a good day.
Knick-knack.